Hello, and welcome to Not Just Books, the Williamson County Public Library's monthly show about what is going on in your county and what is happening at the library. My special guests today are Lindsay Rosebery, reference librarian at the main library on Columbia Avenue, and she'll be talking about what books to take with you on your vacay this summer. And also, it's always a treat to talk with Rick Warwick, Williamson County's historian, and he has a new book out, which he'll be talking to us about, North and East of Franklin's Public Square, a Pictorial Tour. And if you have driven by the square, probably in the last 2 years, you'll see how just crazy busy with building and changing it is. So it's very good to preserve what once was the public square. So come and join us, and thank you again, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm pleased to have with me Lindsay Rosebery, who is our reference librarian extraordinaire at the Williamson County Main Library. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today. And a lot of people take vacations this time of year. So I was thinking if somebody has a beach trip planned or planned to go into the mountains, somewhere where they'll actually be relaxing and instead of trying to make it to the Bear Jamboree, you might be able to read some books while you're on vacation.
Right.
So I'm bringing Lindsay here to talk about that. So Lindsay, what are some of the ones that caught your eye that's coming out this summer?
Well, I've got a long list here, so I'll try to go through and get a few things. Taya Obrecht, who wrote The Tiger's Wife. I don't know if you read that. She's got a new one. And one of the descriptions is, it's kind of a Western, it's kind of a ghost story, and it's narrated by a reformed outlaw to a camel. So,
An outlaw to a camel.
and it's definitely its own thing and something you could get lost in.
That does sound like it's its own kind of genre there.
That's coming out in August. Elizabeth Gilbert has a new book out called City of Girls.
Oh, I didn't know that she had one coming out.
And it's a 95-year-old woman is looking back on her life in the theater in New York City and the loves and losses and things like that.
Elizabeth Gilbert, for if people watching that, she was the author of Eat, Pray, Love.
Pray,
that
Love.
was so popular.
Yes, it's incredibly popular. We have Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. That has just come out, I think, last month, maybe this month. It's not long ago that it came out. We do have a copy of this in our library, and it is... it's a fantasy with magic, and there's twin sisters, and one is magical and one is not. And there's a lot of rancor there. And
now, is this a first?
yes.
Okay, so because I asked, because usually a lot of times the fantasy books or become a series.
Right. We hope so. I actually read this in Galley, so thanks to Ingram.
Good.
Let's see. There's another one. There's a couple of mysteries called Lock Every Door. She takes a new job as an apartment sitter, but something happened to the coworker before her, and she has to solve the mystery and lock every door.
Lock Every Door. Now, who's the author of that
That's Riley Sager. That comes out July the 2nd.
one? Okay.
And The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, his new book. This is based on a true story of a young man who was sent to a reformatory school in Florida, and it turns out to be a house of horrors. And it's probably going to be maybe hard to read, but
You hear true stories of that, where that happens.
And in this place, they actually were leveling it, and they found lots of unmarked graves.
Oh, so there was a lot of this was a long time back.
A long time
then.
ago, like in
Okay.
Also, Pierce Brown, who wrote the Red Rising series, he has another one out called Dark Age. And it continues the story of Darrow, who started the whole thing in Red Rising. And then a Ruth Ware book, Turn of the Key. This woman is paid to be a highly paid live-in nanny, but one of the perks comes with being accused for murder.
Oh,
So-
now when is the date of that one?
Oh, that's August the 6th.
You got a lot of mysteries on there.
Well, I've got some nonfiction. I've tried to get everything.
Yeah, good, good.
A big one coming out in September.
Uh-oh.
The new Margaret Atwood book.
Oh.
It is called The Testaments, and it is
Okay.
continuing the story of Gilead, and it takes us 15 years in the future to find out what
I think
happened.
it's probably been a while since she's had a book out, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially the Handmaid's Tale, which came out a lot earlier.
Now, if people that don't know, Margaret Atwood is the author of *Handmaid's Tale*,
Mm-hmm.
which has turned out to be a very, very popular series.
Number 2 behind Game of Thrones, I think.
Oh my gosh, which is also based on some great books.
Yes. See, here's one, The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, which is coming out in July.
When I like that title.
Yeah. She grew up spending her time working in a bookstore and playing games and having a quiet life. And then she finds out the death of her father she never knew she had, and she finds all kinds of new relations. And
That sounds interesting.
That comes out in July.
Okay.
And then, of course, got to take about the 2 books by 2 people from the Queer Eye, Nat Jolie Tan and Karamo Brown, My Story of Embracing Purpose, Healing, and Hope, if you're interested in some nonfiction. The Plaza, The Secret Life of America's Most Famous Hotel, which is about the Plaza in New York.
Oh, no, that might be interesting.
That would be one of those, it would be a good read, but it wouldn't, it wouldn't be one of those man-woman things. It would be kind of a glimpse of things happening.
Different, interesting characters. I kind of like that.
From the hotel's first guest in 1907 to now. She talks about a comprehensive account of wealth, glamour, and scandals. So.
Lots of scandal, I bet.
Big Sky by Kate Atkinson. She wrote a book which was no one really knew what to do about, called Started Early, Took the Dog.
Oh,
A man was contemplating suicide, and he met a dog who saved his life and changed the way he looked at life.
I love that.
So now he is in a quaint northern English seaside town.
And this is the same character?
Same character.
Okay.
Making a living as a private investigator. And his assignments to track lost cats and unfaithful husbands are never quite what they seem.
I like that.
So,
Cats and unfaithful husbands.
and that's coming out later on this month. Because Started Early, Took the Dog, just really kind of got a lot of buzz. And we do have a copy of that.
Started early,
Took the Dog.
took the dog. Okay, that's very interesting.
Another big one in August is the new Elizabeth Salander novel, The Girl Who Lived Twice, which is the 6th installment of the Millennium series starring Elizabeth Salander, started by Stieg Larsson. If you're interested for something a little different, The Truffle Underground.
Truffle Underground.
This is nonfiction.
Okay.
So he reports on truffles, as in the French delicacies. And it's a smart, revealing expose in how the expensive piece of fungus made it to your plate.
Interesting. If you're a foodie, that's
you're a foodie.
I like that title.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Candace Bushnell has got a book coming out in August. Is There Still Sex in the City? So now it's been 3 decades since she wrote Sex in the City. So she's
New characters or?
Well, it doesn't really say, I guess so. How to navigate Tinder after divorce. What about cosmetic enhancements? And have her trademark candor and body style, updated for a slightly older crowd. Ruth Reichel has come out with another memoir called Save Me the Plums. It's about her time at Gourmet magazine.
I loved one of her other books. I can't remember the name of it. Where
Something with apples, I think.
she was a critic for the times when she was talking about living in New York and the different restaurants. It's great.
Yeah, and that would be one of the books not to read hungry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, a couple of nonfiction books. Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee. The person who was the author, I don't have the author listed. Casey Sepp, C-E-P. She was reporting on the frenzy surrounding Ghost Headed Watchman, and she found out about another never published book
No.
that Harper Lee was writing, and it's a
Oh.
true crime book.
What?
So she was following a case of a small town preacher accused of killing his family, and the vigilante who shot him for revenge, and the lawyer who defended them both.
Okay, now, what's the name of that one again?
It's called Furious Hours.
Okay.
Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee.
Well, we are out of time, unfortunately. Time flies when you start, when we start talking about books, time flies.
Yes.
How can folks find out other information? They can go to our website, WCPL,
WCPLTN.org.
and they can also give us a call. What's the main reference number?
Main reference number is 615-595-1243, extension 1.
Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank
Some
you.
great books to read this summer. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And please help me welcome Rick Warwick with us today. He is our county historian. And what is your title with the foundation? Do you?
Oh, flunky.
Okay, I keep forgetting what official title that you
I don't have official title. They let me have an office.
Okay. Well, your official title is county historian.
That is right, yes, as of January of 2017.
Well, you have a number of books out about Franklin, and they're always terrific, full of pictures and history of the area. And your new one is North and East of Franklin's Public Square, a pictorial tour. Now, what prompted you to select this particular facet of
Well,
history?
back in December of 2017, I did a book on the public square. And that was very successful. And I thought, very little has been written about or known about the part of town that is in Bridge Street, East Main, West, South Margin, North Margin, First Avenue, Second Avenue, Church Street. And since that's my neighborhood now that we're on Bridge Street, and I've been collecting pictures over the years, and I had several good ones, I thought, and it was time to expose that area. There's a real rich history there that's been much overlooked.
How many, you said pictures, I want to get back to your book, but I want to ask you this. You have posted pictures online. How many have you posted?
Well, I
You
have
have an
over
idea?
16,000, but I can't say that all of them are on Flickr because we had a hacking problem a couple years ago, and not all of
Oh.
those got back online.
Okay.
But I, from time to time, have been lucky enough people will come in with a box of photographs, and we copy those down, and it's just one of those things that is a real gift, I think, to Franklin to have these.
Now, Rick, do you have any large collections, or are these just smaller
Well,
collections
no,
that
I
you've
have,
come
sometimes
across?
people come in with a box, and then, of course, over the years, I've done some books on all parts of the county, and so, you'll have maybe 500 photographs of the first district, or the Leapers Fork area. That was my first love, and I had worked on that. There's 2 books out there, and there's probably 2,000 photographs I have that deal with that community. I have a good bit all over the county, but in Franklin, in this area in particular, I thought I had some good pictures that needed to be shared, and we need to kind of spotlight. Now that we have Harpeth Square coming on, which is right in front of me with 150.
Very quickly, it seems
Very
like.
quickly, they're putting up brick as we're speaking today, and causing a lot of traffic congestion. But people needed to know what was there before this. We went from really a slum area to sublime in just a few months.
What is some of your favorite pictures in your new book?
Well, I start out at our building is the number 5. We've had 7 jails in Williamson County since 1800, and 5 of them
Wow.
have been on Bridge Street.
Wow.
And the one we're in, it goes by the old jail because there were 3 jails right there together. Now the newest jail is gone. Our parking lot in the back takes up that area, but we need to know what was there before the jails came, and so I have some good pictures. The earliest building that was on that street that we know about and have pictures of was the old White's Tavern, which was right where the jail, where McConnell's is next door to us.
Okay, White's Tavern.
White's Tavern, it was built in 1803, and it was torn down in 1904 to make way for the jail. And of course, that building is very important. And then, of course, anything along First Avenue, we've had 8 bridges on First Avenue, which was East Margin originally, and we're getting a new bridge soon. The bridge that we have on East Main Street is 90 years old next month, so it's showing its age, and it's scheduled to be replaced.
Now we have there's different groups, government groups that manage different roads. Is that a City of Franklin road, or is that
Actually, it's a state highway.
state
That'll be a
highway.
state, that was Highway 31, which was taken over by the state in 1928 and completed in 1929. The old bridge, you can still see the abutment for, is kind of behind, it's about midway between East Main and First Bridge Street on 2nd Avenue. The abutment's there, and we hope one day that the city will include that in the river walk that's planned. So that'd be a very important area that you'll be able to go from Pinkerton Park, cross the river
That'll be so nice.
twice to
Yeah.
get to Harlansdale. So it'll be that's something special that Franklin can look forward to.
So what is the oldest picture that you have in this one?
I have a picture of the old sugar mill, which was down near the depot. It was on really kind of at the corner of South Margin and East Margin of First Avenue. And that was a real important economic disaster to Franklin. A group of men got together and got the idea that they could make money off of a sugar mill. Well, they found out it was everything that could happen did happen for the negative, and a lot of people lost money in it. But I was speaking at St. Philip's Catholic Church one night to a group of one of their clubs, and there was a lady in the audience who was one of those old Irish Catholic families, and I said, do you by any chance have any photographs? She says, well, I don't, but my aunt does. So she brought me some pictures, and in there was a photograph of the sugar mill. And I've
Now,
used it.
dated back how long?
Well, it's in the 1890s.
Okay.
Maybe it's in the 1880s, 88, 89, and it was just a disaster. A lot of people lost their homes because they had invested money in it, and it went bust.
Well, you wouldn't think that it would.
Well, first of all, we're a little too far north to be growing sugar cane. And they had contracted with the farmers to grow the sugar cane, and it was just a disaster. The farmers didn't get paid. They made molasses, but they never really got into refining it to a sugar. So it was just a disaster. But that photograph's one of my favorites. The old bridges that we have, I've got one that's like in the 1890s that shows the bridge that eventually was, the flood washed it away. And then, of course, we've got pictures of the Masonic Hall, which is a landmark for that part of the area, an early picture of St. Philip's Catholic Church, and a lot of some of the older homes. That area, really, we have Clouston Hall, which is there on 2nd Avenue and Church Street. Gallery 202 is there today, which is a delight. I encourage people to go by and visit the art gallery and get to see a real treasure. It's a landmark. I think it was built in 1828.
Wow.
Kind of across the street and down some is an early house in town that was built, I think, about 1810. And then, of course, anything around by the depot, you know, we have, our railroad came to Franklin like in 1856. And of course, train service has been gone since the early 60s.
And is it the Porter House that's right there at the train, at the
You mean Rainey House?
Rainey House?
Yeah,
okay.
that's on the corner. We have a good early picture of that house and a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Rainey, which is kind of an interesting, he ran a store right there at the railroad, and people, it was a restaurant, and people traveling could have a meal right there. And then he also ran a meal near where the old bridge was.
At the time, that must have been the best business spot, right there at that
Well,
train.
it was, yeah, and there's a lot of activity down there because, you know, we had the ice plant was there on the corner where the Antique Mall is today, and then we had, in the 1950s, we had the chicken plant, which was a total disaster because it caused a lot of pollution into the river. And then, of course, there was several mills were there. You know, Williamson County was one of the major grain producers, particularly wheat and corn. And we had mills and granaries and seed companies all along there. There was a sawmill was near the railroad track. Of course, we had the great tobacco. I didn't realize how important that was, but right there at the corner across from the Rainey House was a very large tobacco warehouse. And of course, tobacco was one of the main crops in Williamson County on up until recently when farmers quit growing cotton, tobacco. But we had 3 warehouses here. Jewell Brothers ended up with all 3 eventually, and they're all gone. That's part of our history.
When putting this book together, what do you think is the most important part about the public square that we need to remember?
About the public square? Well, of course, you know, we have the Confederate monument in the center of the square, and that was the first 2 courthouses was there. First a log courthouse in 1800, and then it was replaced a few years later with a beautiful brick courthouse. The only trouble was it was too small, and it was right in the center of the square. And then in the 1850s, mid-1850s, they moved to our present courthouse in the corner, or the south part of the square. And that is I think one of the prettiest courthouses in Tennessee. It's Greek Revival. It has those beautiful fluted columns that are made out of iron that people don't realize.
Got a personality to it.
And it's got a personality, and it's got the great pediment. They redid it in 1937, and we have a clock there that actually works. You can walk on the square and look up, and you can tell what the time is, which is a great thing. And now, you know, just recently they have refurbished the old Harpeth Bank that was in the corner there, and it's a beautiful building. I must compliment those that did that because it fits now on the square. And then, of course, our next project should be replacing City Hall.
Has there been much talk about doing that yet?
Yes, you know, Eric Stuckey was on this program, on a program that we were taping not long ago, and I asked him, and he said it is in the city budget to do a study to see
Oh, good.
what should be done. Hopefully, they'll tear it down and
Start over?
start over because it's out of date. It was probably ill-conceived when it was first built.
How old is that building?
Well, it was built, I think, about 1974.
Okay.
Or In the early 70s.
In the early
And what it
70s.
was a good idea. It was just too early. There wasn't enough population here to support the stores that were in there. It was a shopping mall
Oh, I
under
didn't
the
know
cover,
that.
yeah. And there just wasn't enough people in the area to shop there. People usually went to Green Hills if they wanted, or over to Harding Mall or Hundred Oaks. And it just didn't catch. And so it was sold to the city. The city's made use of it, but it is ill designed for city built offices. And that property's too valuable to have that much space devoted to city government.
Kind of like having an old hospital as a county complex.
Well, you know that this county hospital, when it was built in the mid-50s, was a great thing, and they realized that it needed to grow, and then to bring county government to this building, since it was in the old courthouse, was a great. This building needed to be used, and I think they've done a really good job of utilizing the structure.
Well, your new book is North and East of Franklin's Public Square, a pictorial tour. And how can one purchase this book?
Well, you can come by the Heritage Foundation. They're $20. I think there's 88 pages, and it's probably 150 photographs in there. Come by there, or we're going to have a book talk at the library on Monday, 24th at 4 o'clock, and you need to call and maybe make reservations because it'll hold about 100 people, but last time we had it full.
Okay, now I have to admit, when you do a program at the library, you have your own entourage with you, so we always have a packed house.
Well, it is good. I do have some kind friends that show up.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back.
I work.
I work.
I work, and I want to keep working
I work for the challenge.
because people are counting on me to provide for my family.
And I'm employed today because we work together.
Work together.
Work together.
When my life changed in an instant,
When I got hurt,
Needed support,
we made a plan.
so I could come back strong.
so I could stay in the game.
Because we couldn't succeed without her.
It wasn't a matter if I could go back to work.
It was a matter of when and how.
Because working works.
Working works.
It lets me earn a living.
Be there for the team. Together, we made a plan to keep me on the field for 2,632 games in a row.
To keep me working.
America works best when all Americans can work. Ensuring workers can stay on the job or return to work following an injury or illness is essential to America's economy. To learn more, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Thank you for joining us today and spending some of your time watching Not Just Books. And my special thanks to our guest today, Lindsay Rosebery, reference librarian with Williamson County Public Library, and Williamson County historian Rick Warwick. Let us know how we're doing on social media. You can comment to us at facebook.com/WCPLTN or on twitter.com WCPLTN. Or you can also look at our website, which is also WCPLTN.org, and also sign up for our weekly newsletter. It comes right to your email. It tells you about all the programs that we're doing. So again, thanks for joining us, and explore your world and read.